So, with so much hatred in the world, what's really needed? What quite appalled me this weekend after reading the news is that members of Parliament press are being intimidated by people, idiots, if you ask me personally, but are being intimidated by the far right and also the far left to a bit. But then you've also got what's happening in America with Trump, and like border walls and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Hatred is overcoming the world. It just seems to be, but we need to fight the hatred. We're going to be talking about hatred here on Around the World Today on Real Terrio Radio.
Podcasts brought to you by Real Terrio Radio. Around the World Today here on Real Terrio Radio.
Welcome to Around the World Today, here on Real Terrio Radio. We have something for you. We'll play you this, and then we'll get your thoughts. Well, actually, you're going to hear my thoughts, but you can make your own.
You lost the people. You're a fascist. Fascist. Anna Super, you're a fascist. You need to show that there are children. You're a fascist. Anna, why are you calling us EDL without any proof? We're not EDL. There are two police. Anna, you're full of lies. Yes, Anna, kids out there, Anna. You're full of lies. Yeah, I'm good.
So, that was what was being chanted to an MP in the United Kingdom, to Anna Salisbury, and what she had to put up with on her way to work. Now, when this is concerned, it's a little worrying that these people are calling Anna Salisbury a Nazi. I don't agree with Anna's politics. Do you know what I mean? I don't agree with political parties full stop, because this is where we end up. At this moment in time, you have the far right blaming the far left. You have the far left blaming the far right. You have the middle ground, taking the hassle. If we get rid of the political parties, the spectrums go away. So these people would be called out for what they are. You know, the person who led this, his name is James Goddard. That's James Goddard. And Mr. Goddard, who was a far-right activist and serial protester. You know, these kind of people called the left who go out and protest, the great British unwashed. So what are you? Question. So, this person, right, Mr. Goddard, who says that he's no affiliation to a political party. A couple of months ago, when a criminal, Stephen Lennon, I might have got the name wrong, but he goes by the alias Tommy Robsons. When he was arrested for breaking the law, this man was one of the people who spoke at his protest. This man has been going against the British justice system for some time. What I find quite appalling is that you can stand outside our parliament, right, and you think that it's right to intimidate members of the media and members of the House of Commons, you know, a sovereign house, political legislator of this country, and call members of the House of Commons Nazis because they don't agree with you. Now, I've gone into student politics and I haven't agreed with other people, but I haven't stood up or gone outside and called the other person who I disagree with a Nazi. Me and Terry Begley and Lee Ellery have our disagreements about how we should run Real Terrio, but at no point do any of us three call each other Nazis. Well, when I like to read history, and the last time I read a history book, let me tell you this. The same tactic, and I'm going to bang my pen on the desk, but I can't because I know it will come out on the air because I'm quite angry. The same tactics were used by Nazi Germany. Intimidation of your competition. Intimidation of the people. So that's the next one that they're going to try. Well, they haven't got it right now because every time the far right has a protest, the far left turn up and they're in a bigger number. Or the anti. So, do you know what I mean? However, the intimidation starts. Okay, I'm going to just say it. We are not Argentina. We are not Brazil during their... we're not Venezuela. We're not a South American country that overthrows its government, or a Caribbean island, or an African country. We are the United Bloody Kingdom. We don't allow this kind of thing to happen. The hatred in this whole that was unleashed by the character in actually by the leader of the Leave campaign. He unleashed this, but the only problem that Dominic, and I really can't remember his last name, the only problem that with this was he unleashed it, but he couldn't control it. So it turns out that Brexit was the whole Cambridge Analytica thing for Brexit was a test for President Trump. For Donald Trump's election. But they were too stupid on the Leave side to actually know what they were doing. You had Conservatives who were against Donald Trump, but even people from the Labour Party who are against Trump and what he stands for, but you're giving him all of this. They were using you as a testing block. Now, you've got people who say that President Trump would be a better Prime Minister of this country. May I remind you, if you're British, right, you should be against what the President of the United States stands for if you're a patriotic British person, because theoretically, under British law, the office of President of the United States or President of any republic that was part of the United Kingdom goes against your crown, goes against your people, and goes against your state. Because these places used to be part of the United Kingdom, and as part of the treason laws in this country, okay, so we are going to talk about treason, as part of the treason laws in this country, to remove the crown from the Queen or from the monarch is a capital offence, or was, and is now a lifetime offence, so you'll get a life sentence. Do you know what I mean? It is high treason. You can't do it. So, for British people to say that we want the American president to be our prime minister, I put it to you, no you bloody don't. Okay, so at the moment you've got a government shutdown in America. Well, I find quite funny. And there's no talk about government shutdown in the UK, but when you've been shut down since the 23rd of June or 2016 on any other legislation besides Brexit, the problem you've got is you're already partially shut down. We just need to make it official now. Do you know what I mean? So, back to it all. the bigger picture. So we've got James Goddard, Tommy Robson, all in the same little group with the UK Independence Party, who are turning far, far, far right. Even Nigel Farage. I don't agree with some of Nigel Farage's policies, but I do agree with him leaving UKIP on a matter of principle, and all of those MPs who have. Now, in Wales, we have UKIP people in our Welsh Assembly, and I find it quite appalling when you've got the Hamilton idiot standing there, or in a media outlet, or standing next to Tommy Robson on a stage, but then goes and says, oh, he's a good chap, we don't get him, and stuff like this. But I fight racism, he says. Hello? Anyone missing the picture here? Do you know what I mean? So, okay. Now, we first, this person used to is a part of something called the Democratic Football Lads Alliance March. I really want to go and bang my head against the wall. Alright, my idea for these kind of people is Brexit unleashed this kind of people. The people who have never voted before, don't understand the political system, don't understand UK politics one iota of a bit, and this is because of failed government policies on education. Basically what we should have been doing all of the time, right, is teaching the people, the children of tomorrow, about politics. Teaching them why they should vote, how they should vote, teaching them how to check manifestos, how to look at political parties, do you know what I mean? Where you fit in, some kind of citizenship. Do you know what I mean? So you're able to vote and understand these things. But of course, no government party is going to allow this to happen, because it starts to, you know, at this moment in time, we've got constituencies that haven't voted or changed their political party in years, generations, in some cases. My own is one of them. So maybe if we did teach more politics in school, a little less, you know, these people would die out in years to come, or their thought processes. But this person went on a march, for heaven's sake. So it's a new kind of English Defence League, because I believe the English Defence League is a criminal organisation now, and it's called the Democratic Football Lads Alliance. Share many similarities with the EDL founded by Tommy Robson almost a decade ago. Do you see what I mean? So when's it all going to come that these little small groups of protesters and stuff are all going to be able to join UKIP, and that UKIP is going to become the equivalent of the Nazi Party? So people like Neil Hamilton, who's currently a UKIP MP, AM, Welsh Assembly member, who is on the fringes. Do you know what I mean? Is he going to be the equivalent of the last German-Turkish ambassador? Sorry, the last German ambassador to Turkey after World War II, or Nazi Germany ambassador to Turkey, who was Chancellor before von Papen? Is this what, you know, the kind of thing that Neil Hamilton, or any MP, or AM, or council member who's against Tommy Robson and the far right, is this what they're going to become? Von Papens? Do you know what I mean? Just so they can stay in political office. Well, at the end of the day, right, when you're going to a member of parliament and you are you're intimidating them to get your own way, you gotta ask yourself, are you fucked up? In the head. There are ways that you can get to see your MP. There are ways that you can debate with your MP and talk to your MP. We don't, you know, we don't live in a world where you're shut off from it and where the MPs are shut off. Yeah, sometimes it might seem like that, but there are ways that you can talk to the MP. I've spoken to my MP on numerous occasions about stuff. There are also, you know, so this person has been begging people, James Goddard. Let's go back to James Goddard. James Goddard, his name is. Oh, what a mess. the whole system is a mess. You know the country is broke. When people like this are able to go and stand outside the gates of Westminster and stop a member of Parliament going to her office, going to work, how would you like it? So you're working in an office, in a call centre. How would you like it if you had to cross through groups of people shouting abuse at you, calling you Nazi every morning? Because I know you wouldn't put up with it, because I wouldn't put up with it. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit intimidating. So what? She doesn't agree with what you say? Well, why should she? This group are quite hilarious, to tell you the truth. I really do believe that we also need to teach about history to some of these people. But there again, the kind of people who join these kind of groups are the ones who, in school, when you were in school, would be the troublemakers. So they would spoil the lessons for everyone else. And they would be the ones, 9 times out of 10, that would spend most of their time either excluded from school or bunking off from school. And I just think they're funny, because I commented on something yesterday and I said, what did I say now? Oh yeah, I said basically the government has been shut down since Brexit, because the only legislation coming out is about Brexit. You know, there's not much legislation coming through about other stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, ending the benefit cap, or, you know, the legislation is purely and predominantly about Brexit. Government has been working on Brexit only for the last 2 years. And screw the rest of the country. At the meantime, and you can tell this because the hatred is still there in the country. You know, what should have happened from day one is Cameron should have come out. Cameron should have said, yes, we lost, but now it's time to rebuild the country. You know, a new country. And tried to make it a little bit more hopeful. But Cameron knew what he was doing. Then you had May, Cameron's number 2, basically, from what I can see, take over. So she was just like Cameron. And that hatred continued until now. And it's at a boiling point. And not even the Conservatives have understood what they've unleashed through the Cambridge Analytica stuff. The hatred on both sides. Do you know what I mean? The Remainers against Leavers. Neighbour against neighbour. Brother against sister. Sister against brother. Brother against brother. Mum and dad. You know, child against mum. Child against dad, dad against mum, do you know what I mean? Grandparents against children, and so on. And it gets to the point, right, that all this hatred, and we're so divided now as a country, as 4 countries, as a political union, whatever, we're so divided. We haven't been this divided in years, in generations, actually, but we're so divided about this. But what they seem to forget to tell you is that all this could have went away in the 70s, well, in the 60s actually, when France requested to join the United Kingdom, and France requested to join the Commonwealth. The only reason the EU was set up was because the UK said no to France joining the UK, no to France joining the Commonwealth. Do you really think the EU would have been set up if France was a part of the United Kingdom? Oh, come on, like, I very much doubt that. I probably would have seen the EU being formed as part of the United Kingdom, and the United Kingdom being predominant in this relationship. But hey, it was a Conservative government that said no. Then it was a Conservative government that went out and joined the EU. It was a Conservative government in 1992 that signed us up to the current EU. It was then a Conservative government that gave you the referendum and divided this country the most that we have ever been before. In my generation, in my mum's generation, even in my grandparents' generation, and she lived through the war, my grandmother and grandfather. So, you know, talk about divided. You know, you hear about Northern Ireland and the problems in Northern Ireland. I can relate to them. My grandfather was Catholic. My grandmother was Anglican. Yeah? So I kind of relate to that. So that makes me, I don't know, I have 50% Catholic blood, 50% Anglican blood. If we want to talk about religion and the whole Northern Ireland problem, actually put people who understand the problem. Now, I believe I'm called a half-breed, or I would be a half-breed of some kind. Do you know what I mean? Because, yeah, his family were Irish. Come from an Irish background. My nana's family come from a Welsh background. And I love the fact that I'm Welsh. But I love the fact that I can also track my genealogy around the UK. So, all around England, all around Ireland. Okay? And I believe I've also found some family members in Scotland. So my family have practically lived all over the UK. Okay, we came here one side of the family came here in the 12th century from Europe. I am related to Charlemagne the Great, the king of the Holy Roman Empire. So, you know, Europe and stuff to me, yeah, I get it. But it's also the intimidation I don't get. I get the whole thing about Europe. I get the whole thing. Like I said, I voted Leave. You know, basically predominantly on the security concern of open borders. Because if you've got... Okay, so in 2015, I went to France. So yeah, like I said, in 2015 I went to France. I was travelling actually to Amsterdam from the UK to Amsterdam, actually from Swansea to Amsterdam. So I crossed over many different countries: Wales, England, France, Belgium, the Netherlands. 5 countries in a day, in 24 hours. Whoop whoop. Right, so I crossed 5 countries. Do you know where I got asked for my passport once? I had to show my passport to get on the ferry, but I never got asked to show my passport again. At this time, the Charlie Hebdo attack was happening. Amsterdam, when I got there the morning... I was in France. I was crossing Calais when the Charlie Hebdo attack was happening. Do you know, not once was that coach stopped? If there was a criminal on that coach, they could have... And I just thought when it came to the... You know, that's the kind of thing that needs to be looked at. Security within countries, within states, within the European Union. In America, there's just closed the state border. They didn't do this in France. You know, coaches and like buses and trains and everything were allowed to go. More terrorist attacks could have happened. However, that's why I voted Leave. But not because of the grounds of, you know, we would be better out or we want to take back control. Well, my question is to these idiots. You want to take back control. So theoretically, okay, if you want to take back control, you want to put Parliament as the sovereign body of the United Kingdom. Meaning that Parliament becomes before all. Parliamentary procedure has to follow suit. But when MPs are using parliamentary procedure and, you know, getting called fascists for using parliamentary procedure, what you want to make sovereign, you know, you want to take back control. You want Parliament to have the final say and to take back control. And what Parliament are doing and you don't like it, then you call them fascists. You need to really wake up and smell which side of the argument you're on if you even understand the argument. That if to make Parliament sovereign, you have to abide by Parliament's decision. Hello? Obviously, someone was asleep during that class or was sitting in detention. Now, I find it repulsive that members of the press, the media... Okay, so it's okay to insult that person, But then when you go and insult their family, like their parents, and say to them, I feel sorry for your parents, the child that they could have raised like you, turning out like you. I'm sorry, but how about your parents? I really do feel sorry for this guy's parents. That, you know, somewhere in his head, it allows him to be able to go out and intimidate people just because he thinks that's what he should be doing. No, what he should have been doing when he was in school is paying more attention to the lessons. Maybe read a book. Maybe actually read about politics. Instead of following people who have to change their name because they're criminals and they can't enter countries because they're criminals, but take a speaking tour in said country that they can't enter because they're a criminal. And they have a criminal offence. How about that you follow a person that believes in breaching the law of this country before actually following the law? You know, it's starting to sound a bit like Adolf Hitler here. He was sent to jail for a putsch. What are we going to have next? A putsch? I'm sorry, but the hatred in this country, or in the world, really needs to stop. You've got Donald, I'm a buffoon Trump in America. One moment saying he's a good Christian. That, you know, that he follows the Bible and reads the Bible. And that, you know, he follows the Gospels too. However, if Donald did follow the Gospel, what Donald would learn is that in the Gospel yesterday, or was it Monday? On Monday, sorry. It was one of these days this week, from Sunday to Monday, Sunday to Tuesday, sorry. One of the Gospels states about borders, breaking down barriers, not putting up barriers in place of borders, allowing open borders. Now this was written in the, you know, this is the Gospel according to the Lord, that Donald Trump is saying that he advocates and believes in. But he's putting a big border up, a border wall. So how is that, you know, him following God's word? No, Donald Trump isn't a good Christian. Donald Trump isn't a good anything. He's not even a good businessman. His businesses went bust. What does the United States government, at this moment in time, have in common with Trump Airlines, Trump's casinos in New Jersey? Oh yeah, they're bust. Oh, even Trump University, they're bust. They're closed down. Yeah, they're gone. They're closed down. That's what the government has in common with Donald Trump's other businesses. And this is the man that America has, the Electoral College in America has voted for. Now, like I said, all Cambridge Analytica had to do was play on the hatred building up in America against immigrants, against Mexicans coming in and taking our jobs. Well, actually, that when you go out live on TV and say that your country is full, we're full, we can't put them anywhere. But half of your country is barren land and desert and fields. You've got many places you can put them. I find it also quite appalling that this man, whose mother broke immigration law, you know, to be in America, broke the law, overstayed on her visa, then went so she could get married to Donald Trump's father, so Donald Trump wouldn't be a bastard. She basically goes back to Scotland, then comes back to America and marries Fred Trump. I'm sorry, but breaching immigration law, yeah, and you become a citizen, and then your son becomes president. Right? And he's dead against immigration when Fred Trump's father actually came from Germany, and the only reason he went back to America, and you've got President Trump, because we could have Chancellor Trump right now, do you know what I mean? The only reason that Donald Trump's father was born in America, it was because his grandfather was kicked out of Germany for not serving in the military. Or a princely state in Germany. So, you know, they went to America. He wanted to move back. He went to America to skip military service, then he wanted to move back. He did move back for a year, then he was kicked out. So, you know, Donald Trump's father was born in America. She was pregnant. She knew she was pregnant in Germany. Donald Trump's father could have been born in Germany. We could have Chancellor Trump right now instead of Chancellor Merkel. It'd be a lot better. I wouldn't like to be the EU, though. Can you imagine the hatred? The hatred just builds and builds. But what you need to remember, guys, is that the love, like I've said, you've got friends, family, acquaintances, colleagues, you know, your neighbours that you love. Yes, do you know what I mean? You formulate friendships, you call them to something else, friendships and stuff, but somewhere down the line you must love them, because you wouldn't spend time with them. You wouldn't spend time doing, you know, like your job. Yes, you know, most of us take a job because we need the money. But then you've got people who actually love their job, love waking up in the morning, love going to, you know, no, love beats hate. Every time. What we must remember is that we're a human race. We must put this before everything else. That all of us are human. So you've got arguments about religion, different religions not coming together, and the hatred of Islam that we are going to touch on. Well, what I say is, and I remember this because about a year ago I was in a taxi on my way home, and I was talking to a taxi driver, you know, as you do. Asked him if he was busy, and I was just saying I read a new story about the criminal Stephen Laxley. Laxley Lennon, also known as Tommy Robson. I read the story about him being arrested, I believe it was, and we were talking about his views on Islam and stuff, and this taxi driver was Muslim and does believe in Islam, as you would expect, as I'm a Christian and I believe in Christianity and God. So, you know, this guy has his views, and we talked, and we both agreed, right, that it's the same God. All the only difference is that he chooses to worship God in his way, with his religion, and I choose to worship God my way in my church. You know, he goes to his mosque and worships God that way, and, you know, that's all fine. You've got Catholics who go to their church and worship God in their way, and you've got Anglicans who go to their church and worship God in their way, and Jews and so on who go to synagogue and worship in their way, and so on. God is, you know, just, it's the same God. So what do we learn? Maybe that we should stop trying to push our beliefs on other people and the hatred towards other religions, because we're all praying to the same person at the end of the day. Or maybe if we took some of the messages from our different texts to, like, what they mean, and adapt them from religious texts to actually life lessons. So, breaking down borders, well, didn't the EU do that? Like I said, you know, there are open borders, and yeah, I don't agree with, you know, in times of emergency like that those borders would have left open, but when there's not an emergency, I agree with open borders. You know, it's one world. It's easier. I can go to Europe when I want. I can travel, you know, without being stopped and things like that. But that's when there's not an emergency. When there's a national emergency on and you're in France and there's a terrorist attack happening, you close your borders. Do you know what I mean? You put some kind of checking process. You don't close the border as such, but you put a checking process in place, so you are able to check that person isn't leaving, because 2 days later they caught the Charlie Hebdo people in Belgium. They crossed the border. So I was a little angry, really, about that, and that's why I voted to leave. You've got other people who voted to leave predominantly, like I said, to take control. You've got people who voted to leave because they believed the lie that immigration would be for them. No, immigration wouldn't be for them, because EU citizens aren't counted in our immigration figures the same as non-EU citizens. So what they wanted was the non-Muslim, for Muslims not to come here anymore. Really? They thought this would stop all immigration. No, it wouldn't, because most of these countries, like India, that India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, these kind of countries are members of the Commonwealth, and as members of the Commonwealth in their own right, they're able to come here in their own right anyway, because Commonwealth citizens, like the EU, get the same treatment as British citizens in the UK. So, it's a bit thing there, because, if we go back to 1948, before 1948, these countries, they were British citizens. So, when you've got the English Defence League and this new football democratic, whatever, union, James, what's his face? I really should learn his name again, because these are recorded over time and it's been a whole day. James Goddard. I should remember Ange Goddard from Hobie City last night, but she's new. So, James Goddard, whose Facebook page and PayPal accounts have been bye-byed. I mean, deleted, exterminated, gone. Couldn't happen to a nicer person. But this person, right? What universe is he living on? Where he thinks it's fine to go and intimidate people. The same universe as Donald Trump. The same universe as Stephen Laxley Lennon. I refuse to ever name that man as Tommy Robson. He will always be Stephen Laxley Lennon until he changes his name by depot. So in the eyes of the law, when they were bringing him up in front of the court, it was, Stephen Laxley Lennon, do you plead guilty or not guilty? The man is an enigma. Do you know that the man broke US immigration law, British immigration law, okay, and he expects to get into the US without being charged and fined? Well, he broke UK law and he was punished for it, but he hasn't been punished for the US law, has he? Hello? It's quite shocking. And then it all stems back to the film that was shown on Monday night that gets you into the background of the whole Brexit saga. The idiot in charge of the Leave campaign, whose name I will find out in a second. As I am doing this when we are talking. And the person was, I'm now just reading, an idiot. Alright, the Vote Leave was led by Dominic Cummings, who was the campaign director. Gisela Stewart was the chairman. And Matthew Elliott was the chief executive. Victoria Woodcock, director of communications and company secretary. And then you've also got the Boris Johnsons, the Michael Groves, the Henry Zotte as digital director. The problem you have is that they unleashed something that they couldn't understand, that no one understood. Well, of course, people did understand. I could have understood that if you mobilise so many people to vote who don't understand the question, for starters, who don't understand what's going on, who don't understand politics. The problem you have is that we're in it now. This is what happened if you look back at Germany. The German people, after World War One, the German people were never used to politics that, everyone got a vote, everyone was equal before the Nazis. They really weren't. And that's what's trying to happen now. The manifestation of everything, in politics at this moment in time. It's just not happening in Germany now. It's happening in the UK. It's happening in America. People who didn't used to go out and vote on election days are now going out and voting. Well, that's good. But the problem is that they don't know what they're voting for. They don't know how to, in an election campaign, when one side puts out lies and the other side doesn't, and the other side says this and the other side, they don't know how to analyse the information that they're being given to know which side should I be on. What's the truth? What isn't the truth? Oh, that sounds a bit risky to me. Do you know what I mean? They can't analyse the data that's being put in front of them. They don't know how to. And this is because, like I've said previously, failed education practices by all governments in the UK. Because if you think about it, right, each government always play to the undecided voters. Those undecided voters are normally people in midlife who go out and start voting. Now, if you were teaching them from a younger age about the principles of voting and why they should vote and how to vote and, how to read an election manifesto, how to distinguish and analyse the manifestos properly, what you've got to then do as a political party is, you've actually got to make sure that you follow your election manifesto, that you follow this, because come next time around, these people will remember it. It will be brought up to them. It will, and then it interferes with your, but instead of playing to a small group of society, you actually have to play to the whole of society. And the problem you've got then is that parties would then either disappear in them majorities, as what we see right now. Two big parties. And then the rest are little parties that really don't get that much of a say. So the problem you've got then is this. Now, what we could do is just get rid of political parties, abolish the spectrum. So you haven't got a left and you haven't got a right. And then what you've got then is that these people are going to be called out as thugs for what they actually are. The ultra-left who say... who like the socialists, not the socialists, sorry, the communists, who bully people to what their tactics are, and then you've got the hard right, that are intimidating MPs. Well, basically, you get rid of the spectrum, you get rid of political parties, these people would be called out for what they are, and that is thugs. The hatred in this country, in the world, is just ridiculous. It really is in 2019. If you think back to 100 years ago, we had just finished World War One. All the boys were coming home. Nurses were coming home. Doctors, the women who were at the front nursing, keeping our troops up, they were all coming home to a better life. They were promised that no more wars would happen. Lo and behold, 100 years later, many wars have happened. But we didn't learn from the lesson. I put it to you, if there's one thing that you can take away from this, is first my hatred of Donald Trump. But not only Trump, but, the right-wing idiots who have just, basically playing into these people's hands, They wanted you to do this. And now you're playing into their hands. But anyway... If there's another thing that you could take away, it is look back at history. History has a habit of repeating itself. It really does. History really does have a habit of repeating itself, but changing. So it might not feel the same or look the same, but it's repeating. Now, I just seen a comment this afternoon, that a German person was saying that the UK shouldn't be a part of, has two options: take a deal, or to remain in the EU. How about this? I turned around and said statements like that really don't help. Firstly, there are 28 members, and we are one of them, of the European Union. So therefore, we still have a say in our own deal. Also, they have a say. Not every country is going to vote the same. All those countries are so fractured because they, fall out with each other so much, basically. So their problem is that, yes, there's a deal, And there's a deal in there, but the deal isn't good for us, so why should we be bullied in to take it? But the hatred shown towards the British now by the EU is quite good too. What should have happened is that we should have come out and we should have all just said that, yes, UK are leaving, but we're still European, we're still one family, do you know what I mean? We're still going to work together. Instead, you've had it from both sides. The hatred is building up to it's a pressure point. And what I would say is that there needs to be change. We need to embrace the love of anything. If you're a different religion, embrace that. Embrace that, you know, that you are different. Yes, we are. We are all different in this world, and there is a reason why, you know, what this James Gallagher doesn't seem to understand. There is a reason why we have different beliefs, different systems, different colour skin, different eyes, different colour hair, different everything is different from another person. Do you want to know what this reason is? It's that I personally believe that the world would be a very boring place if we were all the same. Can you imagine the queues in Tesco? So you go to Tesco at 4 o'clock in the morning, and like everyone, because we're all the same, go shopping at 4 o'clock in the morning. Can you imagine the queues at the checkout? Let alone trying to go and get your meat from the meat counter, or your fish from the fish counter. You know, it would be a very boring place. And the queues to get on buses, because we don't be taking the bus, so we don't be driving, so there'll be queues everywhere. So maybe you know, if you can take something away, take away the embracement. Go hug your loved ones. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell whoever that you care about them. You know, that you don't want to, you don't hate them. You know, let's try and beat the hate and stamp out the intimidation as well. Why intimidate someone? Just because the person doesn't have the same beliefs as you. Why go out and intimidate them and make them look small? It actually, what it really does is make you look small, because you're unable to formulate an argument. Do you know what I mean? If you're able to pull up if you can't argue with what the person is saying, you can't debate it. And the only thing you've got is hatred or a sarky comment. Well, you've already lost the argument, I'm sorry. Or you're intimidating someone, you lost the argument. So, thank you for tuning in to Around the World Today, here on Real Terrio, and you're on Real Terrio Radio. And this will be on Real Terrio on our website, and on our YouTube, Facebook, everything. And thank you for tuning in. Remember, you can visit our Facebook at any time at facebook.com/RealTario, or you can tweet us and it's @RealTario, or you can send us an email at studio@realtario.co.uk, or you can, well, I remember, you can also visit our website, realtarioradio.uk. And I will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye bye.
Podcasts brought to you by Real Terrio Radio. Around the world today here on Real Terrio Radio.